Okay, so this is going to be the alternative step one for this project. So this is for those of you that couldn't get this to work in Photoshop, and also for those of you who are maybe using a different image editor, and this isn't a feature for that image editor, but I want everyone to be able to pull out these frames from their video and isolate them, and then also bring them into Photoshop or whatever digital image editor you're using as separate layers, so you can then use them in Illustrator and to continue this project. So let's go over here. So what I have on this screen, and I have the video open in QuickTime. If you're using a PC or Windows machine, then I think you can use VLC or whatever player is available. And you should just be able to open the file and see. Windows will just open automatically whatever it uses to play, whatever you have kind of set as the default. And I think that this should be available. However, if it's not, then you're going to have to do the extra step of using a screenshot and taking a screenshot of every one of the frames that you're going to be trying to pull out. So hopefully hopefully the Windows player has an option to copy individual frames. So I have this open in QuickTime Player, and I know that it's 6 seconds down here, and we already went over the math, but just a quick review. So this is 6 seconds of digital video, so I know that in digital video there's approximately 30 frames per second of video, and since this is 6 seconds long, I know that there's 180 frames that make up this video, so that when you play them really quickly, it looks like a video. It looks like there's motion happening. So I'm going to have to pull out 24 frames because I'm going to be creating an animation that is 2 seconds long, and instead of having 30 frames per each of those seconds, it's only going to have 12 frames per each of those seconds. So I need to take these 180 frames and then choose 24 of them to base my animation on. So there's a couple of ways that you can do this. And in QuickTime, luckily, you can slide through or scrub through videos using the arrow keys on your keyboard, one frame at a time. So as we figured out previous to this, I divided 180, which is the total number of frames in this video, by 24. And 24 goes into that 187.5 times. So what I want to do, and what that means is that I'm going to, instead of bringing in 180 frames, I'm going to just be pulling out one frame every 7 frames of this video. So I'm going to do that. We're going to skip to go from frame 1 to frame 7, take that frame, copy it to use for later, and then go from frame 7 to frame 14, and then take that frame, copy it, and then store it to use for later. So that's generally the process that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to do that a couple times just to walk everyone through it, but you're going to be doing that until you get to the end. And hopefully at that point you will have 24 or so images saved. So I'm going to start here, going to go, and you can count. You can also approximate this. It might be easier just to count. It really just depends on how this works best for you. So I'm just going to use the arrow keys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I'm going to go up to Edit. I'm going to say Copy. And what this is doing is this is copying just that frame as a still image onto my clipboard. And then I'm going to go over to Photoshop, and I'm going to create a new Photoshop file. It's going to give me the as long as it's set to be the document type is set to be the size of the clipboard. All these settings are going to be perfect. So I'm going to say OK, and then I'm going to go up to Edit, and then I'm going to paste. And so now I have that one frame that is isolated from the video, and it's in a Photoshop file. So very quickly, I'm going to save this as a Photoshop file. So I'm going to go up to Save As, or Command-Shift-S, and I'm going to save this as video frames. And I'm going to make sure that layers is checked, say save. And then I'm going to go back to my video and I'm going to go forward another 7 frames. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I'm going to copy. So Command C. I'm going to go back to Photoshop and then I'm going to paste again. So you see now I have layer 1, layer 2, and so this is starting to create one file in each of the frames that I pull out is going to be its own layer. And then I'm going to just save this as a Photoshop file so that I can save all those layers and they can all be separate images. And this is what you're going to be using to then go into Illustrator to create illustrations based on each of these frames. So you're going to have to do this 22 more times now that you have 2 frames done. And for those of you that are not able to use QuickTime, or if your video player is not letting you copy, then the added step is going to be just taking a screenshot, and probably you'd want to be able to use a screenshot and capture just this area of the video. And what's going to happen is that you are probably, if you are having to use screenshots, you're going to get slightly different sizes. That's okay. Just keep copying and pasting them into the file that you started with, as long as you got it, as long as you selected an area that was a very close match to the frame of the video. If you're off by a couple pixels, it's not going to matter, because we are going to be creating animations only based on the action and the motion in the video. So the different sizes of the backgrounds, that's not going to matter as much. And if you're copying and pasting them all into one Photoshop file, it's actually going to keep everything the same size, and it'll just kind of crop off the edges if you ended up making selections that are slightly larger than the original frame, or the original screenshot that you took. So that's only if you're taking screenshots. If you are able to copy and paste the still frames from your video player, you probably will be having dealing with images that are all the same size. But if something ends up changing a little bit with that, again, don't worry, because the way that we're going to be using these, it doesn't matter what the frame size is of these original images and these still frames, because we're just going to be basing our animation on those. Okay, so you still want to make sure to save your Photoshop file, and then you're going to open Illustrator and start on step 2.